Okay. With the numbers coming into the room seem to have stopped. So probably the best thing for us is to crack on. So once again, thanks for being here. My name's Matthew Hallam. We're now moving in onto our next session, which is the Patchwork in Practice session. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll hear from three different teams who've been translating the idea of physical literacy into real practical work within education settings. They'll be sharing their learning, reflections and insights from delivering on the ground, what's worked, what's been challenging, and where they're heading next. We'll first be hearing from John, Ian, and Natalie from Project Springboard. Then we'll be hearing from Rebecca, Marcus, and Caroline from the Nurturing a Culture of Positive Experiences in Plymouth and Devon. And last but in no way least, Nick, Lucy, and Jenny will be introducing us to their Move with Youth presentation. There will be a short period of time at the end of the presentation to ask questions. So if you do think of any questions during the presentations, can I please ask you to put them in the chat? That's the intro. So I'll now hand you over to Project Springboard to get us going.
Thanks, Matthew. You're going to move this. That's it. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So just kick off with some quick introductions. My name's John Parsons. So I'm the Director of Innovation at RealP and part of the Project Springboard. And the rest of the team, if you'd like to introduce yourself quickly.
I'm James Mooney, and I'm the Senior Network Leader at the Cabot Learning Federation with a focus on PE, school sport and physical activity.
Hi everyone, so I'm Natalie. I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Derby, as well as early years lead for the International Physical Literacy Association. And today we've got 5 precious minutes to introduce Project Springboard. And that is a project that's the collaboration between 3 diverse organisations. So I'm obviously a research head. But we've come together to ask, what if we gave our youngest children the very best start by supporting movement, play and PE through that physical literacy lens? Next slide, please, Matt.
So just using the term return on investment, it was a term that was used earlier actually in the presentation. I've got an image. Can you just move it on, please, Matthew? So if you knew that you had a pile of money shown here, and you knew that investing it in a certain way would give you the best return on investment, the question we would then ask is, when would you invest most of that money? So you may hold some back, but when would you invest most of that money? And probably, my guess is the answer is you're thinking as early as possible. So the question then is, how does this relate to physical literacy and the concept of a springboard? So if you just move us on, please, Matthew. And again, so this correlation, the same principle applies. So that's how we see Project Springboard, is investing as early as possible, i.e. into our youngest learners, will give us the biggest returns. So if we could build those really positive, solid, lifelong foundations for children, particularly in early years in Key Stage 1, that's going to provide the springboard that they need to build that platform for a positive relationship with physical activity for life. If you can move us on. So some huge benefits of working with this age range, we believe, and it's so important to do it. We believe that children in the early years in Key Stage 1 really start to build their own sort of self-belief and self-efficacy around physical activity and really start to develop those early relationships with physical activity. And there's a huge benefit that we believe very young children have an innate desire to move and play and be active. And it's about building on that innate desire to move and play and be active that we're trying to do through Project Springboard. There are huge opportunities to integrate movement and play. Schools and nurseries are full of opportunities to harness this. And if we move on again, if we can get this right, the ripple effects are potentially huge. So it's not just about physical activity and physical development, it's the impact that can have on some of the things shown in the image. So it goes way beyond physical activity. But as many of you in the room will know, and Natalie's going to talk about, despite all this evidence and all this knowledge, we simply aren't getting it right for far too many children, young people within this age range. So too many children are missing out and they're not getting the springboard that they need. And this project's about addressing that. We move on.
So our project, if you click on a few, Matt, was firstly, like a lot of projects in this process, about digging deeper into the context. So if you just click on a few more times, that'd be great. So we've got both a bird's eye view, the latest research and policy, and a worm's eye view. So I was joking that I'm like some kind of magical worm whisperer, because our job is to speak with the schools, the PE teachers, the EYFS practitioners, which have, as we know, a different curriculum to kind of an older children in education. So if you click on one more time, in research, what we've seen and what some of my own research has shown is that there is that confusion in the early years, mixed messages, a lack of understanding and even awareness of, physical activity recommendations for under fives, and a lack of PL lens. But it's a tricky one because physical and literacy is a very strong word in the early years. But however, there is an appetite for change. So we know there are these barriers, but there is also opportunities, because in practice, this change needs support. So Project Springboard was about asking those questions. Where are we at? Then what is this magical support going to look like? We talked earlier about how a physical literacy informed approach may look different in different contexts. And this is especially important with the younger children, because we need to make this case for change and for more and more schools to implement a PL informed approach. So what does this look like? And what does this magical support look like? So if you click on Matt and then hand over to James.
So knowing that there is all of these areas where there's uncommon or unaligned thinking, we were also very aware that schools do recognise all of this need to have a change, but they really needed to understand what that would look like and how we can support and guide them on this journey. So what we've done is, across my trust and in the wider networks that John works with, we identified some schools to start to unpick the themes that they needed. And for us, this was a big change because, quite frankly, I think we were very clear on how we could probably help and had loads of solutions ready to go. But it was really important that we delve back into this discovery and really invested in the co-design piece, understanding that each school and its different contexts would have different things. So during the conversations with early year leads, primary PE leads, and also the principals within those settings, we were able to identify 5 key strands or priorities for schools. And those are the things that we'd focus our efforts towards. And all of those are on display now. So the vision, policies and the curriculum, staff confidence and expertise, children engagement and progress, enrichment intervention, and assessment impact. If you want to click the next bit on, please, Matt. And that's meant that through all of these efforts and finding these 5 key priorities, we can start to align our approaches. And that's where the magic is. When it all joins up, the impact can be multiplied. I'm just going to pass you back to John.
So in terms of where we're at now, having done this research and had these conversations, we've started to build that into a bit of a framework to work with the schools, to look at really kind of self-reflecting on where they're at in terms of their journey. So if you move the slide on. So where are they now? Where do they want to be? What are the things they're doing really well? What are the things that they need support with? And then helping and supporting them and guiding them on that journey. So we're at the point of having a prototype to really guide them and support them on that journey. And we're starting to work with schools to work through that process to really understand their needs and how that's going to work in practice. And piloting it with, as James said, some of the cabinet schools, testing how it works, sharing best practice across the trust. And then at the same time, starting to pilot some interventions and support alongside some of the physical literacy resources that have been mentioned to provide that guidance and knowledge and information against those 5 areas. If you just click again. So one example, Natalie, you could talk through this.
Yeah, so essentially what we're trying to do is create a helpful and supportive tracking and assessment tool piece that will enable settings to identify where their strengths and weaknesses are across those 5 areas that James mentioned. So some example of some of the crossover work in my PhD, it's all about trying to understand the relationship between PL and physical activity as they're 2 separate things. And as part of that, we've developed a play wheel tool. So it's like physical literacy early years, like what I've done there. But it's about quantifying PL. Now, this is tricky because PL isn't about putting children or people into boxes. It's about a journey. However, a physical literacy informed kind of pattern of behaviours and strengths isn't equal for one child to another. So we have the 4 lovely domains of think, feel, move and connect. And that's what this tool enables us to do, is think of them equally. And then educators kind of rate the children on where they think those behaviours and skills are within 12 key components of physical literacy. And that has enabled, that's kind of I guess that's kind of the child's need bit of John's larger work, to try and answer those questions of what are the children's movements and behaviours and how do they relate to each other. So it's really interesting that we found in the piloting work with this tool so far that socially engaged children that score higher on some of the social components, maybe not so high on the physical, are significantly more physically active. And that's really interesting, because at some point as a child gets older, that will change. But for now, in this magical early years, it's about those other 3 and having them the same as the move, an equal percentage. So if you go on to the next slide, Matt.
And I think we've run over time, so I think we'll
Carry on,
probably leave it there, James. So that's our
Read it.
call to action. So if you want to find out more, get in touch with us. Put my email on there. If you've got any questions, come and join us if it's of interest around changing that journey for our youngest learners.
Yeah, and I've just popped in the chat. If any of this stuff is of interest and you think, oh, I want to hear more, let's pilot it, challenge us, talk to us about it. Let's do this together. So I put a survey in because my Play Wheel tool is currently a survey out on it. So if anyone's got 10-15 minutes, love you to have a look at that. But yeah, other than that, we welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We're now moving on to nurturing a culture of positive experiences in Plymouth and Devon.
Afternoon, everyone. I'll go first. I'll introduce myself. I'm Caroline Storer from Community Youth in Plymouth. We're a citywide programme that offers a variety of programmes for young people aged 10 to 19, 25%. We're basically where young people are at. So we're in centres, on the street, in education settings, in and around the water and any green spaces in Plymouth.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Marcus. I'm the head of PE at a school in Exeter called St Luke's Church of England School, and I'm the network lead for the Ted Ragg Multi Academy Trust for PE. We operate across 18 schools, primary through to secondary, with 14 of them being secondary in and around Devon.
Brilliant. And I'm Rebecca Skinner. I work for Active Devon, and I'm our Children and Young People lead, and currently lead our Plymouth Pathfinder work, which is one of Sport England's transition places. Next slide, please, Matthew. Can you click on 3 more times, actually, please? So today we're going to take you through our physical literacy journey so far. And if you're hoping for a finished story, heads up, you will be disappointed. We are absolutely at the start of this journey. And we've got agreements in place amongst the 3 organisations until July 2026. So we're definitely planning for this to be for the long haul. And we've also written it into our place partner bid for Sport England. So yeah, this is definitely the start of the journey. So what was the problem we identified? So we understand there's rising inactivity levels for children and young people, and we absolutely recognise that we're not getting it right for all children and young people. So some children and young people are not getting a positive experience of physical activity and movement. And we also identified that there's a disconnection between services. So education and youth often working with the same children and young people, but they're getting totally different results. Children and young people getting totally different experiences, but we're not learning and working together. Okay, so what did we set out to do? We are working collaboratively on 2 pathways, parallel pathways, education and youth centre. So we're keen to take a whole systems approach to physical. Hey, I just heard that I've just been told I've been muted. Is that right?
You're not muted, Rebecca. You've just gone very quiet.
Okay, sorry about that. Is that better?
That's better now. Yeah.
I'll put my little microphone next to me. Sorry, that's a shame. Okay, where did I get to? Do you know?
What's the problem?
What's the problem? Brilliant. Okay. Okay, it's a bit, well, I won't go back through it all, you can read that, but the key bit is that disconnection between youth and education. So can you hear me now? Sorry, I keep on hearing buzzing in my ear. Okay.
No, that's fine.
So children and young people are working with the same children and young people, but getting different results, and children are getting different experiences. So what does it look like to work together to support that? So we're working on two parallel pathways, youth sector and education. So we're keen to take a whole systems approach to physical literacy, looking at children more holistically, so to support them with positive experiences both during the school day and beyond the school day. So I'm moving on to the orange bits. I'm going to do the orange bits. So the impact so far. So we've been sharing best practice and sharing resources to support this, both physical literacy and trauma-informed approaches being embedded across education and youth. So it's been Active Devon's role to support this, to find expertise and knowledge nationally, and then to mobilise that locally. So we've worked with a number of partners to support this work, including Gethamon Thomas, Youth Sport Trust, and James Mooney from Cabot Learning Federation, who you've just heard from. And now we're working deeply with PE Scholar and more recently Future Action to really support us to embed PL and trauma-informed practices across the work. So next bit on the orange, what have been the key challenges and considerations? And it will be no surprise to you that workload has been and will continue to be a pinch point. So we are mindful not to overload ourselves and others. And that's why it's been really important for us that we're seamlessly integrating physical literacy into culture, policy and practice and delivery, rather than having it as some random bolt-on, an extra bolt-on, oh, we're doing this as well. So really trying to make sure that we integrate it. And our partners at PE Scholar have been great in helping support this by providing a bespoke offer for schools to meet them where they're at. So it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all. That's all from me for now. So I'll hand back over to you, Marcus.
Hi, also talking across from an education point of view, so just left to right along the yellow boxes. So in terms of setting out what to do, I briefly spoke about it this morning. The question from Gethin this morning in terms of how many students would stay in PE if they had the choice with no consequences really hit home for me. And therefore to try and spread that across 14 secondary schools is where we've started, was our challenge. We're really lucky across our trust that we get something called an investment day, where every person from each department gets to come together on a day and we get to do whole trust CPD. And that's where I was really fortunate through the Patchwork programme. And this is one advocate that it puts you in touch with lots of experts. So we use James, who you've just heard from the Cabot Learning Trust, from someone who's done it within their system. Liz Durden-Myers, it's put in charge with. We've spoken to Emma McKenzie from the Youth Sport Trust, who you heard from earlier as an expert, and they came down to give us an introduction into physical literacy and how it worked. We've then been really fortunate to have all heads of PE from within our trust on CPD days getting together and talking through the logistics of how we're going to embed this within our programs, within our schools, in our 14 different settings. The impact so far has been positive, although we're just at the start. We've got some early adopters. So we've got a school in Plymouth called Marine Academy Plymouth, who have completely transformed and redesigned an entire curriculum and the way they deliver PE to their catchment area, which is fantastic. And they're our sort of early adopters and our shining light that's going to start. We've been really fortunate to secure funding for 2 physical literacy champions in our trust. So there are 2 members of staff within the PE sector that are going to have an hour per week. And their job is purely to design and implement physical literacy schemes of work, ideas, and try them out within their school settings to then share them across our trust and help design things that work for their specific school group or their specific school. The key challenges we've had, as James has touched upon just a second ago, each school is individual. Our trust thoroughly believe that there is no sort of, you're not going to follow one set curriculum. Each school is allowed to deliver their own. And therefore, if you had physical literacy as the column in terms of the main core principles that you have, how a school then can adopt it is up to them, because it has to suit their school body. That obviously looks different, and therefore trying to manage that is a consideration that anyone trying to do this in multiple schools has to consider, that it won't look the same. The principles will be the same, but it won't exactly mirror each other. A key way we're going to use to try and adapt our effectiveness is by using the Active Live survey. What we've done is every school amongst our trust has done that this year. So we have a baseline data, and then we'll do it again next year and again in 2027. So we can measure the impact which we're having. And that's how we're going to measure our impact on all our students, on the, as I said this morning, 15,500 students across Devon that we'll currently have. Caroline.
Good afternoon. So as Becky was saying, our kind of bit was about actually putting some time and resource into our youth work staff. You know, the staff that we work with are out in the communities. They're across the whole of the city working with young people. And they are literally there every day from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, engaging with young people through a variety of activities. So it was about really putting the time to enable the staff to have training and to look at kind of how and what they're doing, and actually being able to articulate that and work alongside that with our partners across the city. The impact that it's had has been massive within our staff team, about them recognising what they're doing, how they're doing, and actually getting young people's voice within what they're doing. So some of the examples that we've been able to do is we're working alongside our local pool at Tinside, where we have over 150 young people that attend a swimming session. And that is kind of young people from across the city that don't necessarily engage in education or any other kind of form of activity. So the staff team have been taken along their own journey around physical literacy, and kind of actually really kind of putting that into their thinking and into their face-to-face programme. And this is really kind of enabling us to grow as an organisation, and then to support others within that. Part of the ongoing challenges for us is about, again, partnerships and kind of working alongside and people recognising the impact that youth services have within the whole of the system. So that's kind of really brief overview, because I'm really wary about time. So
yes, I'm afraid so. Can we move on pretty quickly? Otherwise, Move with Youth are going to have a very short amount of time.
So really quickly for us is about just that, you know, as Rebecca was saying, this is an ongoing thing for us as a service. We're kind of embedding it into us. We're learning, we're kind of evaluating and taking the young people on the journey. That will then hopefully be something that we take out to our partners in the voluntary community sector and other youth sector. And then hopefully from that is to grow that into a national kind of bit of work.
And then
yeah, sorry.
I think we do need to leave it there because of time, but you can move forward. I think, Matthew, what we can say is, if anyone wants to hear more, they want to hear about this work in depth, so that we've got time to be able to really go through what we've been doing and how we've been doing it, please do reach out. We're more than happy to share our journey.
I'm sure what we'll do with any post-conference events, we will share email addresses so that people can get in touch and reach out if they want to. Thank you. So we'll move on to the last team now, which is Move with Youth.
Thanks, Matt. So we're Move with Youth. I'm Lucy Gray. I work for Active Humber as the Development Manager for Children and Young People. And I'm presenting today with Nick Richmond from Withernsea High School. We've also been working with Jen Lount from East Yorkshire Place Partner, formerly known as Active Withernsea, and Jen can't make the call today. Next slide, please. So our initial aims when we started this work was to look at the whole school approach to embed physical literacy and farm practice at Withernsea High School, and to co-design a curriculum with students, partners and the PE team to gain positive experiences for all. Next slide, please. So just wanted to go through why we thought this was a good opportunity for Withernsea High School. In the Humber, our most recent Active Lives data tell us that children and young people from our low affluence families are less likely to be active. Withernsea High School has double the national average of pupil premium students. Over half our children and young people are not active enough. Children and young people in rural communities are less likely to be active. Withernsea is rural and coastal with poor transport links. There is a gender inequality gap. Girls are less active than boys. We'll explain this on the next slide with one of our interventions. Withernsea is one of Sport England's local delivery pilots in place. They do have the unique role in school, which is Nick, the hybrid teacher role that links the school and the community. And our patchwork programme team have been working together for the past 3 years, and that relationship has been key to developing this. The school are also open to change. Next slide, please. I'll just talk now about one of our successful interventions. So the Girls Carousel project, it's where we've taken year 9 and 10 girls who don't typically engage in school PE to the local leisure facility to try new activities to help them gain that positive relationship with movement. Activities included junior gym, badminton, fitness classes in an informal, relaxed environment, hoping that they find that activity that they enjoy and may continue into adulthood. We feel that student and teacher voice is a powerful tool for developing this work, and we feel like we've only just scratched the surface in terms of where we're beginning on this journey. Some of the key words from the girls were freedom, felt comfortable, love wearing their own clothes, and choice. We now have a short clip from Mrs. Marshall, who is part of the pastoral team. We've worked with the pastoral team, and Matt's just going to share the screen now. He just has to go out into YouTube to share the clip to come back in. After the clip, I'm going to pass on to my colleague Nick to explain in a little bit more detail. Thanks, Matt.
Hopefully you can see that.
I've joined coaching sessions. I've seen them grow in confidence. I've seen them enjoy sessions. I've seen them participate with people who would normally not participate with. And I've got confidence to come to the gym themselves.
Great, thanks, Matt. If you just pop it onto the next slide for us, that'd be spot on. Thanks, Matt. So what have we done over the last 9 months in addition to this? In addition to the Girls Carousel project that Lucy's just spoken about, we've introduced lots of other interventions and initiatives to the high school that have had a physical literacy approach. A few examples of these are Boys Engage, The Girl I Want to Be, and Beyond the Baseline. We've supported leaders to understand physical literacy, and as a result, we have successfully got this embedded into the school improvement plan for the next 3 years. With the uniqueness of my role and having more capacity than a stack teacher, I've been able to make a case for change in school. We have met with the school's pastoral team to utilise their strong relationships with students to understand a broader perspective towards movement in school. We've gathered lots of student voice through various targeted groups, including the school's Board for Change. And finally, we have played a part in developing a wider PE network with various partners in the Humber with the view to working collectively, and this will include physical literacy work. The next slide, please, Matt. So what have we learned? From the work that we've started at Withensea High School, the student feedback has been really positive, and attendance to school of the students involved with some of these interventions has improved. Based on the success and investment of time in this work, we believe if physical literacy can be embedded in the PE curriculum, it will be the springboard for whole school change. Specifically at Withensea, our PE department has seen lots of change over the last few years. We've learned that in order to create successful change, then you need your foundations of staffing, systems, etc. in place. Fortunately, we now have new leadership in place for September. We see this as being a great step moving forward. Next slide, Matt, please. So what will we do next? We're going to work with the Youth Sport Trust on their new physical literacy resource. Look to embed physical literacy in our school's enhanced resource provision and engage with new PE leadership with the view to driving this work forward. And that's us. I'll pass back to you, Matt, please. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. That's really good. And apologies that we've overrun slightly, but I know how much time the teams have put into creating these presentations. So the last thing I wanted to do was jump in and really too much and stop them presenting, especially when we've got an hour or so with the listening circles to follow that we could probably eat into a little bit of the time there. So I hope you enjoyed those. A huge thank you to all the 3 teams for sharing such rich and thoughtful presentations. We're not going to be opening up to questions, I'm afraid, due to the time constraints. But I just want to acknowledge the incredible work that the teams have done so far and the honesty and energy that's gone into sharing what they've done. As we've heard, while cohort 1 of the patchwork programme may be drawing to a close, the work is far from over and will continue, and so does the learning. They will continue to work to make a difference to young people in education, and we need to make sure that this work reaches all schools and all children. Physical literacy may not be a silver bullet, and at times it may be messy, but it's clear we're seeing green shoots, as I hope you've seen from the presentations, and with it, the potential for real lasting impact in schools. Now, like I say, we were supposed to have a question and answer session here. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. What I will say is I'll feed back to Deborah and Lenny to see if there's any way that with any post-conference sort of resources that are sent out, if you've got any questions, whether there's a way for them to capture that, and we can try and get something out to you at a later date if there's anything that you really pressing that you want to ask. Alternatively, we will look to share email addresses of everybody in the Patchwork program, or those people that are happy to have their emails shared. And if there's anything that you want to reach out to them directly for, then we would certainly ask you to do that. So on this session, our time is now up. Once again, big thank you to the presenters. And we will be moving on to the listening circles. So